Let's talk about silver and demand destruction. Now, it seems a little crazy to talk about demand destruction at $28 an ounce at around June 1st, 2012 because the price is too low. But I just want to put this principle out there because this works with all commodities. And I don't like people being steered wrong about some of the stuff that's going on with people being taught things with lines and graphs and charts and statistics and all the silver in the world is going to disappear and the price is going to go through the roof. Now, I don't want to be negative either because let me put it this way. I want the price of silver to go through the roof because I have physical silver and I want it to go through the roof. But I want to put things out to people in reality because people don't want to believe me because you're too nice because I realize what's going on with some of the areas, what's going on in silver. But I want to point out that just put this in common sense perspective. You go in a store and you buy something. Say it's any product. It could be a food product, a clothing product, or whatever it is. Say it's something you buy on a regular basis. Double the price. Do you think it's a good deal then? Maybe. Do you? Well, in that case, double the price again. Now, just figure like some of the predictions on silver. So like if we went from 28 to 56 to 112, well, who knows, right? What happens with the demand destruction? Do people find alternatives? Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Now, I'm going to state right now, I'm very bullish on the metal. I think in real dollars, silver should be at least about a couple $100 an ounce. That's what I think. And in inflationary dollars, it's probably going to go to 500, 600 or more, maybe 1,000 even, right? Because we're going to have inflation, strong inflation. We're going to have like what could be defined as hyperinflation. Not right now, because Ben Bernanke didn't act, right? But when he does, he will. He will. The fiat money system is basically going to fall apart. Slow death, and a bunch of bounces and stuff like that, It's going to get knocked down. The fiat money system, the dollar's going to get back up again. You think it's going to be breathing, and it's not going to last. It's not going to last. But silver will survive. Now, just keep in mind, though, about demand destruction and cycles. And first off, it doesn't matter how indispensable a commodity is. If the price is through the roof, guess what happens? You find other ways to do without the commodity, or you use a lesser commodity. So, for instance, like if silver is way too high, maybe you can use copper. Maybe you can use aluminum. As a matter of fact, aluminum is being used in mirrors more often now because silver is actually kind of high. For a couple of years ago, it was like, a little more than 2 years ago, $15, right? So it's basically double. So they're using aluminum in mirrors more. So, if it starts getting up to a couple $100 or more, way more than $100 an ounce in real dollars, you're going to find alternative products. Keep this in mind. Do not trust these guys. I swear to God, these people pushing this stuff about all these crazy prices on silver, it's going to probably hit that high because of a panic, which means that the majority get it wrong and a few get it right. I'd like to be the few, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to be that smart because I get wrapped up in different things too. So let's talk about demand destruction. This is an older article, not really related to silver, but it's a commodity, talking about steel and iron ore prices likely to soften as demand destruction in China takes hold. 2011, right, October. So it's quite a ways ago. It's like 9 months ago or something. But what I want to point out is the principle. It's not so much the article, but it's the principle. I've seen this stuff happen in all industries. And, I want to also point out people holding physical silver are basically way ahead of the people in the financial world who think they are, understanding the markets and understand what goes on with annuities and fixed annuities, variable annuities, various investments, and what's the safest place to put your money. Physical silver is probably one of your very safest places to put your money. When the light bulb goes on, that's when there's going to be a panic into this metal, and that's where we're going to see it go up high. Now, But don't be afraid to part with it when it goes up very high and trade it for another real asset. Right? You have to take fiat, but then you take that fiat and you buy another real asset. Now, this talks about demand destruction, because demand destruction for silver will occur when it gets up too high. Just like with steel and iron ore. So they talked about steel and iron ore in the construction industry in China. They had a housing construction was also declining in China. This was 2011 due to government efforts to tighten credit to control inflation and put a dampener on rampant real estate speculation. Now, we also know, like, for instance, if you look back in 2006, when the real estate market was moving and housing construction was extremely strong in the United States, you could take a particular, I guess you would call it a commodity like concrete, very difficult to actually get at that time because they're building that big dam in China. They're using, like, pretty much most of the concrete in the world. I don't know how much they were using, but they were taking a large amount of the supply that was available for construction, which there was also a very heated up construction industry going on. So what happens is then, the price will explode, but then all of a sudden it comes back down. That's where people hold on too long. See, what goes on with silver and gold right now, they're an incredibly good investment. Even though they're probably going to drop a little more, you ain't going to have a long wait before you get some incredible turns. You're not, as a matter of fact, if you bought silver now, even at 28 something, and went down to 24.50 or whatever the hell it is, still, it's going to bounce. It's going to have a tremendous bounce when things occur, and a lot of that's going to be caused of the revaluation, appreciation of the Chinese yuan. I know that's the next major trick up the sleeve. Plus, also another debt downgrade of U.S. debt. That's another thing that's coming up. Election year or not, I know there's people who say that's not going to happen, but you know what? It is going to happen. It is going to happen. They're screwing up the budgets. I know it. Now, demand destruction is an economic term. Actually, this is a newer term, right? But it's not really super new. But it's something that you don't have in that supply and demand model too much. Because what happens is, they have this demand curve up, 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 up. But when it gets to a certain price, what happens is people find ways to not use the product. And what happens then is basically what you'll call, this is like an old expression, necessity is the mother of invention. If the price of something goes up too high, alternatives are found. And I know people say, there's no alternative for silver, it's using this. There is. It's like somebody's going to actually invent one. It'll be like, in other words, if your back is put to the wall that something is that expensive, there's going to be things that come out of left field that'll be new inventions. And, that's where you'll see the demand destruction. Besides, the things with margin rate increases and all the other garbage you got to look for out of left field. So, although right now at this price, silver is a great investment, and all these people that are into the financial and accounting world, most of them aren't into any physical metals at all. They think it's nuts. They're flat out wrong because they're archaic thinking. Because they think the historical significance of the dollar, how its strength has been around for so many years, that it's going to continue to be that way. It's not going to fall apart like really super fast, but it's going to take some years. But it is going to fall apart, and silver is going to be a great investment. So, I agree with that principle. But I totally disagree with the way a lot of I'll just call them what they are, the pumper and dumpers of the physical metals put out their information, because it is disinformation. It is disinformation. They make some radical claims, and they're wrong. And I think they know they're wrong too. So they're playing a game on you people. Just going to wake you up to some basic principles here. Demand destruction is a economic term to use to describe a permanent downward shift in the demand curve in the direction of a lower demand of a commodity, such as energy products. Energy is a good example. In other words, if energy goes up to, like, you say $150 a barrel, then what's going to happen is it's going to cause a slowdown in the economy because everybody's going to use a lot less energy. So it'll bring things down. Now, that's a good example, but like the same thing happens in anything. It could be in the construction industry. And, the real estate market had a much better sales appeal than even silver in a lot of ways. And it's like they say, you can never, ever, ever lose, because, in other words, there's only so much real estate. And now, yes, you could say there's land in the Gobi Desert, Death Valley, in the tundra up in Alaska someplace, in Antarctica. But I'm talking about land that people can actually use, that actually it's close to infrastructure, roadways, shopping malls, and, has all the utilities, the businesses nearby. There's not much prime land. So at the time of real estate, people were always talking about you can't lose on real estate because it's very limited. At prime real estate, very real limited. Plus, you can actually produce his income. Well, I mean, you can argue that, but it can get ahead of itself. Quite obviously, real estate got ahead of itself. And that's what's going to happen with silver. Not right now, but it will. When the majority of the people get involved in silver and they start buying it, that's when we're going to start seeing the prices way the hell up there. And I think it's Kid Dynamite calls them the silver blog mafia. That's quite a good description of them, because I don't like using the word mafia, but they are basically pump and dumpers, and they're going to be constantly pushing up this metal. And I'm far more, I don't want to be like too much, but I've already figured out what's going on. And in a number of cases, I only had to listen to people maybe one or two times to figure out they're totally full of it. And in a number of other cases, I had to listen to them for, say, maybe some few months to figure out they're full of it. And now I see a major mosaic of what's going on in the supposed alternative media and everything else like that. They're not really for the person that's the man on the street. They're playing you like suckers. Now, that being said, hold on to the physical metals. Don't go 100% into them, but if you don't have silver, buy it. Even at this price, I don't know. I think if you had no silver, you'd be nuts not to buy any right now. That I'd say for sure. Now, obviously, I'm not reaching those type of people on my channel but whatever. That's what it'll play out. And at one point in time, it's actually going to price itself, way too high, and alternatives are going to be used. In other words, copper could be an alternative that could be used in place of silver in some areas. Aluminum, like I said, with mirrors. And, a lot of commodities have come and go as being, in rank of importance. Salt is an interesting one, because salt was in the Roman times the most important commodity, or probably one of the most, and even spices from India. It wasn't even so much the precious metals. Actually, there was a lot of precious metals going to China and India because of trade with, for spices. They're losing out on that, the metals. Now, as far as what can happen with silver in the near term, it is going to have a explosive price movement upward this year, and probably a good crash, after that. I think it is. I'm watching the ratio, 30 to 1, close to 30 to 1, silver to gold. I think gold is, it was over, I think it was in 1920, around there. It hit the top in 2011. With another debt downgrade and appreciation of the Chinese yuan and some events that happened in the Middle East, gold can pretty easily top 2,000, no problem. So I figured even at 2,100 gold, 30 to 1 ratio with silver, if they have to push in more QE, that's $70, right? Why not, right? But I'm not going to actually wait for that point. I'll be selling before that. So, but physical, I'll be much more reluctant to sell than electronic. And actually, right now, I'm more in platinum than silver electronically, and I'm going to basically wait, because I think that platinum actually is going to exceed the price of gold, even though I'm down right now. And see, that's the reason you hold on to fiat cash too, because then you can really wait out a really, really long time. But remember about demand destruction. See, I would really like to state this. These people that are telling you these fundamentals on silver, now you don't believe it because you're seeing the price go down. But you're going to believe it again when it goes over 50. This is my point. When it goes over 50, you're going to believe everything these people are telling you, and they're so full of it, and they know it too. They know it. That's my contention. You can think I'm an evil person for saying that, because anytime you accuse, you're the bad guy, and it becomes on myself that I'm accusing somebody, but I know what's going on. So I'm just telling you this. I could play the same game and say silver's going to the roof, and I'm not playing that game. It actually is, but not the way these guys are saying it. They're misleading you. And just be cautious, watch for demand destruction, and just the age-old principle. Like even David Morgan, I think he pretty much knew when that crash was going to come, because he sold that April 28th. But his advice wasn't screwed up. See, that's why I got some respect for him. He was at least telling people, if you got double on something, sell half. Right? So I don't consider him like, one of the people that have kind of pissed me off, because I don't like what some of the other people were saying. But he did say that, and that's a good thing to go by. And you're going to say, what do you take, fiat? Well, maybe you just buy something that's a hard asset that's a good deal, right? If you got double on something, sell it, and sell half. Sell half. You might not catch it perfect, but you're still halfway in, right? That's not stupid advice.